So we can continue now with the next batch of questions, okay? All right. The project manager is working with several engineers on the project. The project manager noticed that when the junior engineers are asked questions, they defer to more senior, that's spelling, typing mistake, to more senior team members on the team for answers. Having worked with the junior engineers on another project, the project manager knows they're capable of making these minor decisions correctly. This uncertainty from the junior engineers is now slowing progress. What should the project manager do? Update the risk register to reflect the possible impact of the project's slower progress. Ensure the junior engineers make decisions within a certain responsibility level and commit to it. Remove the junior engineers from any decision-making activity until further trained, or pair senior engineers to shadow the junior engineers and correct them throughout. Okay? Now, there is a key word here. The project manager knows that the junior engineers are capable of making these minor decisions correctly. Okay, they're capable of, so they should take the decisions themselves. I think, as usual, answer A, like updating the risk register. Again, this is not a situation from which we can depict a risk, I think. And maybe it can be excluded, answer A. And answer C, the same, like removing the junior engineers from any decision-making activity. Actually, I think those should not be good answers. I think the right answer should be making sure that the junior engineers, they make the decisions within a certain responsibility level and commit to it, because there is a key word here. Now, maybe some of you might say, actually, why not have the senior engineers shadow or coach the junior engineers and correct them throughout? Because this will take a lot of effort. Shadowing means you're covering for them, you're sitting by them, you're following what they do. That will, like, it's like, having two people doing one task. Plus, the keyword here, the project manager knows they're capable of making these minor decisions themselves. So let's give them power, let's empower them, and let's make sure that they will actually take those decisions themselves. Okay, so the right answer is B here. A recently concluded quality audit failed and came back with multiple action items. A newly appointed project manager is reviewing the project status with the team. New stakeholders have been identified, and new audit resources may have to be added to the project. What should the project manager do next? Perform stakeholder engagement, perform integrated change control, update the quality management plan, update the risk management plan. I think the answer is quite obvious, which is perform the integrated change control, because we need to add, or new audit resources might need to be added to the project. Okay. Not a risk. Definitely not. It's not about updating the quality management plan. Okay. Even though we have quality audit failed, okay, and several action items, but here we need to raise change requests because we need to make these changes, to perform these action items, okay, which will go definitely through change request, and we need to add resources, okay. So for this, we need to perform integrated change control. So this question is about change management in Waterfall. A project requires the installation of a call center to support operations. It is estimated that the call center will need 100 people working on weekdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and weekends from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. What should the project manager do? Implement the call center with internal staff to ensure the work is performed according to company's culture. Work with 50% of the people internally and contract the other 50% to an outside company. Delegate the analysis to the human resources department in order to organize the call center operations. Conduct an alternative analysis to decide whether to hire people directly or contract with a company to do the job. Now, this is sort of like, whether people need to work overtime on the weekends or not. Then, let's say, let's agree that answer C is out. We don't delegate. Okay. We need to do the work ourselves generally. Okay. So answer C is out. Now, answer B, which is working with 50% of the people internally and contract the other 50% to an outside company. Actually, this is not, let's say, this is not the answer we're looking for. The same with implementing the call center with internal staff to ensure the work is performed according to the company's culture. Here, actually, it might be too much, to work on weekends, people working 7 days a week. Like, it didn't say just work on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. It says work on weekends. Now, you cannot have people working weekdays and weekends. That's too much for them. Then, you need to conduct an alternative analysis whether to hire people directly, like more people, just people to work on the weekends, or contract with a company to do the job. Okay. So we need to have an alternative analysis, but work with 50% of the people internally on contract the other 50% to an outside company. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, again, um, analyzing alternatives is better, in order to have, an overview of really the pros and cons. If you remember from our course, the pros and cons, the doability also of each alternative, and then decide. Because definitely we cannot do it, with just our internal people. And it's not about 50-50. Let's have alternative analysis. Okay. And definitely we cannot do it with just our internal stuff. It's too much for them. A project manager is leading a project to develop accounting software for a trading firm. As the outcomes are being delivered, a new risk is identified regarding an indirect task regulation that is being changed by the government in the next 6 months. This risk will have a significant impact on the project outcomes. What should the project manager do next? Determine the impact of the risk and prioritize outcomes that do not affect the task model. Delay developing the indirect tax model until the tax regulation comes into effect. Assess the impact of the risk with an expert and prioritize further outcomes with the client. Analyze the impact of the risk and discuss with the team to determine how to separate the tax model. Sorry. Okay. So what do we have here? We're developing an accounting software, but a new risk is identified regarding a tax regulation being changed within the next 6 months, and this will have significant impact on the project outcomes. Now, determine the impact of the risk and prioritize outcomes that do not affect the tax model. Actually, this is a regulation, and prioritizing the outcomes in such a way is actually may not be the best solution. Delaying developing the indirect tax model, not, because actually this risk has been identified and we need to take action. Assess the impact of the risk with an expert and prioritize further outcomes uh, with the client. That sounds like good, but let's check the next one. Analyze the impact of the risk and discuss with the team to determine how to separate the tax model. Uh, I'm not sure about this one. I might go with answer C actually. Okay. Yeah, answer C is, assess the impact with an expert who is, good with these regulations and tax and stuff, and then prioritize the outcomes of the client. Because analyzing the impact and discussing it with the with the team to determine how to separate the tax model, maybe we don't want to separate the tax model. Okay, maybe we would like, really just to prioritize the further work to come. Okay, and that's why we went with the answer C. As a result of the first iteration review, the stakeholders' feedback indicated that they saw more technical features than business ones. What should the project manager do? Include this topic in the next iteration in this retrospective. Review this topic with the product owner before the next iteration planning. Discuss this topic with the team in the next daily meeting. Definitely not. You see, even though this is a coaching session, but I need to teach you also how to save time. Discussing this topic in the next daily meeting, we don't discuss any such thing in the daily meetings. Okay, guys? No, we don't do it in the daily meetings. All right. Ask the product owner to review this topic in the next iteration meeting. Okay. So what's the situation here? After the first review, the feedback from the stakeholders indicated that they don't see business values. Okay. So what we need to do here is definitely we need to review this topic with the product owner before the next iteration planning. So in the next iteration planning, we can, the product owner can prioritize business features more than technical features. Okay, so as a project manager, I need to review this with the PO. Now, include this topic in the next iteration retrospective, not because that's for continuous improvement, as you know it. And asking the PO to review this topic in the next iteration planning, we need the PO to come ready, actually, okay? Prepared. Like, the backlog is groomed, okay, and ready for the planning session. Okay, so that's why answer is B. A project manager just completed a successful deployment and is preparing to transition the project to an operational state before starting closeout actions. What should the project manager do to ensure that the project is ready to move to an operational state? Meet with the project team to review the work breakdown structure and confirm deliverables have been delivered. Develop a plan to repay the technical debt incurred during the project and ensure that the project sponsor agrees with the plan. Review the project approval requirements in the project charter and confirm who will be approving the project. Refer to the project's work in progress report to ensure that there is no additional work in the backlog. Now, work is completed. We're ready to transition to operations and start the closeout. Now, let's see the question. What should the project manager do to ensure that the project is ready to move to an operational state? If you want the project to move to an operational state, make sure that you have all the necessary approvals in place. Okay. So that's why answer is C actually. We need to review the approval requirements. So what is required to get the approvals, make sure that all those requirements are done, get the approval as stated in the project charter, and then have the necessary approvals. Okay, that's we had even similar questions in the training to this one. About closing a project. So the question was about closing the project, and it asks what are the steps to take for closing the project. So definitely always the answer for closing the project is make sure that we understand the closing procedure and we collect the necessary approvals. Okay, so collect the necessary approvals and follow the closure procedure. Okay, the administrative closure, do it in the right way. Okay, so that's the right answer. Meeting with the team to review the WBS and confirm deliverables have been delivered. Well, it's good to do that, but there is a better answer. Okay, a more solid one. Develop a plan to repay technical debt, definitely not. And then go to the work in progress reports to ensure there is no additional work in the backlog. Again, that's not the right answer. Okay. A project manager works in a startup company and is in charge of a key project that has critical and time sensitive delivery objectives. One of the project team members missed completing an assigned deliverable on time despite repeated assurances from the team member that it would be completed on time. What should the project manager do next? Record the issue, then focus on the team's effort on delivering the next set of the deliverables. Give the team member a formal warning. Definitely not. I will not continue this one because we don't warn, we don't sanction, etc. Hold the team meeting to discuss team member commitments and communications. meet with a team member and work on a development plan for them to avoid missed deliverables in the future. I think we know it. One of the team members is performing poorly. Okay, then definitely we need to provide them with coaching, mentoring, developing the plan so they could, finish their work more effectively the next time. Okay. The answer A is not effective at all. Recording this in an issue log and then focusing on the team's efforts on delivering the next set of deliverables, that does not provide a solution to the matter at all. Okay. And then holding a team meeting to focus on team member commitments and communications. Again, that does not help with the problem of the team members' poor performance. Okay. At the end of a canceled project, the project manager sent surveys to all stakeholders. The survey also included templates for stakeholders to outline situations, solutions, results, and suggestions. How should the project manager use the information collected? Map the lessons learned against work breakdown structure components. Archive the survey responses with project artifacts for future projects. Use the information to restart the project. Evaluate the information collected on areas of improvement. Now, the project has been canceled, so we cannot use this information from these surveys, okay, to restart the project. We cannot do that. That's not our decision as a project manager, okay? So definitely answer C is out. Now, the project is canceled. The purpose of the survey is to all stakeholders, definitely to collect information, okay? What were the situations handled, solutions applied, results and suggestions. So this is a lessons learned meeting or survey. This is a lessons learned survey. We need to learn from this canceled project, so for the future projects. So that's why the right answer is B. Archive the survey responses with project artifacts for future projects. That's the right answer because the project is already canceled, it's gone. So let's learn from this project for the future projects. Now, mapping the lessons learned against WBS, that's got no meaning. That's got no meaning. Okay. And evaluate the information collected on areas of improvement. We don't need to do that because the project is already canceled. A self-organizing team for a critical project is consistently delivering value according to their commitments. During a retrospective, the project manager observed that most of the team members were stressed due to overcommitments. What should the project manager do? Help the team members by organizing regular stress relieving and team building sessions. Request additional resources. No, I will not continue. I will not read B. B, I will not read it because we don't request additional resources. Okay. Support the team during the planning phase and only commit to what they're able to deliver. Ask individual team members to plan staggered leave to avoid becoming stressed. Now, we have critical project, but during the retrospective, the team members expressed stress over commitments. Now, we said request additional resources are out. And asking team members to plan staggered leave, that's actually not something we do, to be honest. So the right answer is support the team during the planning phase. Make sure that we plan work based on their velocity so they can only commit to what they're able to deliver. Okay? That means we need to respect the team's velocity, and respecting the team's velocity, that will reduce stress. Okay. Now, maybe some of you would think that team members can have regular stress relieving and team building sessions. Team building sessions are like for having closer relationships and better collaboration, cooperation among team members. That's not the problem. The problem is with commitment. How much is being planned, and that's why the answer is C. Guys, I need to tell you something important. Believe me, in the exam, to pass is not about trying or pushing on yourself. to answer with the right answers. Now, if you really want to pass and get the certification, of course, you get the certification if your answers are right, are correct, but that should not be your main purpose. Your main purpose is really to understand the situation in each project and answer based on the mindset and the practices. That's what really you need to do. Really, like seriously, that's what you need to do, okay? That's the right thing. Like, really, if I were in this project, what would I do? What should I do? How does PMI want me to think? That's actually what you should ask yourself in each question in order to be able to answer it. Now, of course, what can help you in the short term is, all right, you know what? Let me memorize the video from Ben Hamuda about understanding PMI's mindset. Now, once I understand PMI's mindset and all those tips and tricks, I will be able to answer the exam. Yes, that's right. You'll get your certification. But what's even better is if you wear or put yourself in the shoes of the project manager and answer as a project manager. Really, just do it, and you will see how it will work fine. And you will be able really to figure out the best answer for each question. You'll figure that out, really. Project manager leads a development project for mobile chatting application. One of the experienced developers constantly creates conflicts with the other team members. As a result, the other team members are refusing to work with the developer. Since the developer is a high performer, the project goals may be negatively impacted if they leave the team. What should the project manager do in this situation? Meet with the developer to ask them to be respectful with the other team members and work together as a team. Meet with the team members and developer individually to understand the situation and build an action plan accordingly. Collect the team's feedback and send it to HR to resolve the conflict. Definitely not. Definitely not. We don't pick this answer, really, because we need to resolve the conflict ourselves by ourselves. Okay, arrange a team building training session and require all of the team members to attend. Now, a conflict among team members. One is performer, the other team members are bothered by let's say it's his behavior. Then definitely the best thing to do is meet with the team members and the developer individually, understand the situation, and then build an action plan accordingly based on like what you get from them. All right. Now, somebody might ask, why not, a team building training session? Team building is not a training session, to be honest. Team building is an activity, it's not a training session. Okay. That's just there is a mistake in this answer. And this is something I needed to tell you. Like, really pay attention to the answers. Sometimes, reading one word in the answer might make us think that it's actually the best answer. But then, if we focus closely or have a closer look on the answer, we will see that actually it contains a word that is wrong, or maybe the first part is okay, but the second part is not. So yeah, be careful with that. Asking the developer to be meet with the developer, ask them to be respectful with the other team members and work together as a team. That's good, but first let's understand the situation better, okay? Because maybe there is something wrong from both sides. A new building project is in the middle of its life cycle. The municipality informs the project manager that due to new regulations, the parking lot around the project has to accommodate twice the number of cars than was initially planned. What should the project manager do next? Request the project sponsor to fund this change as it is a new regulation, then order the materials in order to start working. Assess the impact of the required change and consult with the executive sponsors to determine the best course of action. Ask the designers to start designing a solution for this new equipment while the project is running and determine the funding for this change. Have the company's lawyers write to the municipality and reject the change as it was not part of the scope approved by the municipality. I think there are two answers which we already figured that they're wrong, and these two answers are C and D. C, because we have a change here coming from regulation. We cannot ask people to start designing a solution. No, we need first to assess it, discuss it, consult it, understand it. Okay. And also answer D, like rejecting this, you cannot. This come from a new regulation. Now, the best course of action here is to assess the impact of this change, consult with the executive sponsors, or yeah, and then determine the best course of action. Okay, requesting the sponsor to fund this immediately, not really. Okay, we need first to assess, understand the impact. Okay, and definitely include the sponsor in the consultation before taking any further action, whether it's a change request or whatever. Okay, we mentioned this before. We put in our tips and tricks. A project manager is working on a project with multiple work streams. One of the work streams missed its deadline multiple times. Who should the project manager speak to about the situation to ensure it does not happen again? Work stream leader and project sponsor, work stream leader alone, work stream leader and functional manager, work stream leader and PMO. Okay. Um, we have multiple work streams, like multiple teams, and one of the work streams missed the deadline multiple times, like it happened multiple times. Now, talking with the work stream leader alone is not gonna be effective, because the question says how to ensure it will not happen again. If we want to ensure it will not happen again, we need definitely to talk to their manager. So that's why the right answer is the team leader uh, and the functional manager. Okay, because this has happened multiple times, which means when it happened once, we have talked to them. When it happened again, we have talked to them. But this has already been happening, and it has repeated several times. Therefore, now it's no more about talking to the work stream leader alone, but definitely we need to involve their functional manager in this. Okay. You might ask, why not the sponsor? Actually, the sponsor is not about resolving issues with the team members. Okay. Why not the PMO? The PMO is not supposed to be involved in this unless it's the only choice. But here we have a clear choice, which is the functional manager. A project manager who recently joined the company has been assigned to manage a software project for a major recurring customer. What should the project manager do to enhance the budget estimations for the project? Discuss the budget with the team during the daily stand-ups to ensure the budget is under control. Review budget-related lessons learned from similar projects. Invite the client to the kickoff meeting and create the project budget during the meeting. Implement an agile approach to avoid using a fixed budget. Now, answer D is definitely wrong, because even in Agile, we do have fixed budgets. Okay. Here, let's say we need to enhance the budget estimations for the project. Okay. The answer C is wrong, because during the kickoff meeting, we don't create the budget. Okay, we should come with a high level estimated budget, actually, for the kickoff, because the kickoff meeting's purpose is to approve the project charter and start the project. Discussing the budget with the team during the daily stand-ups, that's definitely wrong. Actually, I didn't even want to mention this because it's obviously wrong. Then we need to review these budget-related lessons learned from similar projects. Okay, and make sure, like, for example, we have better ways to estimate the budget and enhance the estimates. Like, for example, have more analogous estimating, or any other techniques mentioned in the lessons learned. Okay, guys, when you read the answers, if there is an answer that is obviously wrong, then just don't continue reading it, or simply strike it through. I have explained to you in last week's session how to use the on-view software during the exam, how to strike through the answers you don't want. So just make sure you exclude the answers that really are obviously so wrong. That will save you time. Time management is very important in the exam. Next question. A multi-million dollar project has started and is in the execution phase. A local regulatory authority has just announced changes to the requirements that will need to be implemented in 6 months prior to completing the project execution phase. What should the project manager do next? Add the new requirements to the project scope immediately, since they are mandatory changes. I think you kind of figured that this is wrong as an answer, because we talked about in the training how when there is a change coming from regulation, we need to evaluate, assess, maybe involve the right experts, and then the next action would be take a change request, or consult with the sponsor on the change or the next steps. I think you kind of figured it right. Figure it out. Review the new requirements with the compliance department to determine if a change request is needed. Okay. Ignore. No, I will not continue reading the rest. Okay. I will not continue reading the rest. I will save time. An answer that starts with ignore or any of those eliminating techniques, I will not continue reading it because it will save me time. Proceed with the defined project requirements and delay implementing the new requirements. Definitely not, because these are quite important requirements. So obviously, the answer is B. We need to review the requirements with the specialized department, which is the compliance department, and then determine if a change request is needed. Actually, exactly as we mentioned. Really, apply this mindset, guys, and you'll be fine in the exam. Just apply it, please. A project manager is leading a team of diverse individuals of all ages. The working hours for the project were set at the beginning of the project, and all team members agreed to the hours. However, later in the project, one of the team members informed the project manager that the previously agreed upon hours no longer work due to the team member's personal commitments. What should the project manager do? Allow the most senior team members to decide the time that works for the team, reassess the team's hours collaboratively so that the team is not impeded by the issue, discuss the lack of dedication of the team member and their functional manager, remove the team member. No, no removing. No removing and no discussing with a functional manager. Obviously, like these two, not. Okay, we have, it's a minor issue, They have a personal issue with time, okay? They have some personal commitments. For example, they need to pick up their kids, from school, etc. So definitely the right answer is to reassess the team's hours collaboratively. Involve the whole team again. It's okay. We can do it. This person here, this team member has got personal issues. So we need to find a solution together, okay? Allow the most senior team members decide? Definitely not. Definitely not, because all the team members must be included in this decision, okay? A project being constructed in a remote rural area is nearing the end of construction. The project manager would like to share the good news with the stakeholders. How should the project manager communicate with the local community? Through social media, through emails, through meetings, or through newspapers. Now, we're talking about a rural area. People in rural areas, they're mostly farmers, okay? People in rural areas, I mean, generally, they have different kind of customs. They appreciate the direct talk. Social media, emails, newspapers are not direct forms of talking and meeting or communication. So we need to have that. We need to inform them through meetings, not emails, not social media, not newspapers. A company is working on a project to develop an integration of their existing systems. There are known issues in the production. What should the project manager do? Identify and remove impediments and mitigate the risks. Ensure the product owner reviews the requirements with the team. Include acceptance criteria and the definition of done. Review the quality control process and procedures. Okay? So here are several issues on the production. Definitely what needs to be done is to remove these impediments and mitigate any potential risks from that. Now, ensure the PO reviews the requirements with the team. It's not actually about reviewing the requirements, okay? Because we're talking about known issues in production. Include acceptance criteria definition of done. No, it's not about that. Okay, and review the quality control process and procedures. Again, it's not about the quality of the deliverables. There are known issues in the production, okay? Yeah, and the systems. So we have to remove these impediments and mitigate any related risks. While finalizing project management plans, a customer provides the project manager with a new set of quality standards to which the final product must adhere. What should the project manager do to ensure a smooth delivery of the product? Involve the client in risk identification, agree with the client on acceptance criteria, involve the client in a performance gap analysis, agree with the client on a new project charter. Now, definitely answer these out. Okay. We have a new set of quality standards from the customer. Now, what to do in order to ensure a smooth delivery of the product? Now, since there is a new set of quality standards, then definitely we need to agree with the client on acceptance criteria for each one of these requirements. Okay, involving the client in risk identification. That's not what needs to be done, neither involving the client in a performance gap analysis, because actually, receiving the acceptance criteria for this new set of quality standards can help adhering to these requirements and have or ensure a smooth delivery of the product. A hybrid project has just a hybrid project has just been deployed. There's a bean missing here. And the project manager is planning project closure with lessons learned workshops. A key stakeholder informs the project manager that having the Scrum team in the workshops is a waste of time because the project was delivered successfully. What should the project manager do? Ask the Scrum team members to share retrospectives, ask the Scrum master to attend the workshops, invite the Scrum team members as optional participants, invite the Scrum team members as mandatory participants. Now, just finish a project. We're planning the close out with the lessons learned workshops. Now, we're talking about lessons learned workshops. Can we really have lessons learned workshops without the team members? Definitely not. The team members must be mandatory participants because they will be sharing, the issues they faced and the solutions they deployed, how they resolved all the issues. So definitely they must be mandatory. I mean, their presence is mandatory. Okay. Sharing retrospectives, like sending emails in which they, share the retrospectives. And now, Scrum Master to attend, not just the Scrum Master. Optional participation of Scrum team. Nope, it must be mandatory participation. Okay. A project team member wants to select specific challenging tasks in the subsequent iteration. How can the project lead help the team member in the next iteration? Assign the challenging tasks to the team member. Ask the PO to assign the challenging tasks. Definitely not. Reprioritize the challenging tasks to future sprints. Coach the team member to pick up the challenging tasks. I think it's obvious we need to coach the team member to pick up the right challenging tasks. That's it. Asking the PO to assign tasks, definitely not. Reprioritize, nope. That's no, we don't. The project lead does not reprioritize, and then assign the challenging tasks now because the project lead does not assign challenging tasks. In Agile, the team members they pick the work themselves. So you, as a project lead, you just need to coach the team members to make sure that they pick the right tasks for them. A company has assigned the project manager to the initial task of determining the resources required for a new project. What should the project manager consult? Company's historical organizational project artifacts, company's project responsibility assignment metrics, company's resource management plan, or company's resource calendars. Now, just being assigned to a new project, and we need to determine the resources required. What should you consult? Now, historical project artifacts and responsibility assignment matrix, definitely not. Now, between the resource management plan of the company and the resource calendars of the company, I would go with actually the resource calendars, because actually the resource management plan, that's something we studied in project management. It didn't say the project resource management plan, it says the company's resource management plan. So I will not go with that, even though resource management plan is quite important when determining the resources required. But here the mistake is it says company's resource management plan. So I would go more with the company's resource calendars. So let me check the resource calendars, and then I will know which resources will be available to work on this project. A project manager is beginning a new project with very diverse team members. The project manager chose to use consensus building so the team can agree on and be engaged in how the project will be executed. How should the project manager proceed? Create an environment where the agreement is reached by majority vote, sorry. Create an environment where the agreement is reached through discussion. Establish recurring brainstorming sessions to discuss project issues. Allow team members to contribute ideas in a stream of consciousness mode. Okay. So here we have a project with diverse teams, and we just chose to use consensus building, like everyone agreeing, so the team can agree on and be engaged on how the project will be executed. So we need to pick an answer where there is consensus reached, and this is like create an environment where the agreement is reached through a discussion. Okay, so why not A? Because here this is majority vote, and we said no. Answer C, like establish recurring brainstorming sessions to discuss project issues. It's got nothing to do with the situation here, which is chose to use consensus building. Allow team members to contribute ideas in a stream of consciousness mode. That's again out of the subject. So we need to pick an answer that talks about the way of deciding, and that's answer B, because answer A is about majority. But here we need to reach consensus among all team members through discussion. During a team meeting, the project manager asks the team to complete a personality assessment to help everyone understand themselves and one another better. The project manager analyzes the results and realizes that more than one half of team members are introverts. What should the project manager do? Present brainstorming topics a day before the session so the team can reflect and contribute more fully during the session. Adjust the lighting and ambient sounds in the work in common areas to create a relaxing work atmosphere. Ensure the team understands that their input needs to be fully articulated and explained to all team members during daily stand-ups. Require everyone to share personal details at the start of each team meeting to allow learn members to get to know one another. Now, most of the teams are introverts. So here, since they are introverts, they don't talk much. So please keep it in mind. Introverts, they don't like talking much. They're more action oriented. Okay. So here, what do you need to do as a project manager? Now, definitely present the topics the day before the session, so the introvert people can reflect and think and bring like more contribution to the session. Because if you don't do that and you just let's say surprise them with a the topic during the session, they're introverts, they will not be sharing anything because they're thinker types. So answer A means you need to provide them in advance with the data so they can think about it, prepare their notes, and come ready. Okay, because they're thinkers, they're introverts. Okay, adjusting the lighting and the ambient sounds. It's got nothing to do with the topic, to be honest. Um, ensure the team understands that their input needs to be fully articulated and explained during the daily stand-ups. It's not an effective solution, not to this, okay? And require everyone to share personal details. That's got nothing to do with this, to be honest. Okay? A project manager is managing the development of a dental wire bending machine. The machine is compatible with the three most popular dental wires in the market, which cover 90% of the market. The prototype is now under testing for certification. The manufacturer of one of the three wires or wiring companies announced that they will be producing a different wire that will be incompatible with the machine. This will result in a 25% loss of market coverage from the initially predicted 90% coverage. What should the project manager do? Now, before reading any answers, please, guys, focus with me. Before reading any answers, I really like this type of questions. I mean, I really like this type of context, really. It puts you in a realistic context with lots of information, even though, yeah, it makes you think really like in a true environment. I really like this kind of questions. Investigate the impact of this issue with the team and survey the market for alternative wires with similar characteristics. Okay. Stop the work. Absolutely not. And kick off another project. Definitely not. Meet with the sales and marketing representatives and ask them to convince the manufacturer to reconsider. We don't do that. Definitely, we said this before. We don't try to convince people like vendors, suppliers, stakeholders when there is a business decision, unless if we use tools and techniques. But again, that's really rare. Tools and techniques such as cost benefit analysis, alternative analysis, etc. But that's not the case here. Meet with the wire manufacturer to secure enough of the existing stock for the machine. I think you guys figured the right answer is answer A. We need to investigate the impact of this decision with the team, and check with check the market and check and see if there are any alternative wires with similar characteristics which could replace this miss of 25%. An Agile project team is tasked with the new project. After multiple discussions with the customer, it appears that there is a lack of clarity on the requirements, which resulted in delays in the architecture and design phase. What should the team do next? No, maybe you're surprised from the question. The question says what should the team do next, not what should the project manager do next. It's fine. It is fine. I said this in the training. I have mentioned it in the training, guys. I told you. PMP, for both project manager and the team. So it's really fine if most of the actions are about the project manager, some of them are about the team. And actually, you noticed. And when you will take your exam, you will notice a lot of questions are about the team. Yes, exactly, because it's very important to highlight the importance of including the team in taking the decisions, empowering the team members, etc., etc. This is part of PMI's mindset. Okay, so it's pretty fine and pretty fair to do it. Okay. Start with the end user documentation to review with the customer and gather feedback. Start with the design of the prototype, review with the customer and gather feedback. Start with the product prototype development, review with the customer and gather feedback. Start with the product architecture review with the customer and gather feedback. Now there is a lack of clarity on the requirements, and we have delay in the architecture and design phase. So definitely, what we need to do is start with the prototype development, review with the customer, and gather feedback. Definitely, some of you might ask why not start with the product architecture review with the customer and gather feedback. Okay, because the clarity is on the requirements. This has led to delays on the architecture and design phase. So the customer, after several discussions with the customer, they have a lack of clarity on the requirements. Now let's clarify the requirements. So what we need to do here is clarify the requirements of the customer. Clarifying the requirements of the customer, that happens through giving them a better, or guiding them, helping them understand better their needs. So by providing them with a prototype, they will better understand their requirements, and then we can move forward, and these will automatically remove any issues related to architecture and design. Okay, starting with end user documentation, definitely not. And design of the prototype, review with the customer, gather feedback. It is okay, but C is actually more complete, because here we're doing the prototype development, then review with the customer, okay, and then gather feedback. So even the design of the prototype, the design of the prototype is not enough. So we need to develop the prototype to help the customer better view what we have built and give feedback whether it's really what they need or not. A project manager is working as a servant leader for a pilot project to adopt agile practices. After 3 sprints, the team demos the product to the main stakeholders but receive negative feedback about the product's features. The team feels that all of the features meet the acceptance criteria defined by the product owner and does not understand what went wrong. How should the project manager mitigate the product rejection? Share the product backlog with the main stakeholders to review in advance. Engage the main stakeholders in the upcoming sprint review sessions. Create dedicated sprints to implement feature fixes for the rejected ones. I think not. I think this answer not. Ask the product sponsor to evaluate the assignment of a new product owner, and these also not. So C and D are out, then definitely the right one is B. Since the stakeholders gave negative feedback about the product features, then we need to engage them more in the upcoming reviews so they can be aware of what's happening, they provide feedback, and we can continue in a better way. Okay, sharing the product backlog with the main stakeholders to review in advance. Stakeholders don't care about the product backlog, they want to see demos. A few key stakeholders are concerned about how the perfect team is planning to develop some features for a new product. They know that the requirements associated with these features are unstable, but are also highly strategic for adding value to the product and the customer. What should the project manager do? Suggest an agile approach to refine these requirements and prioritize them according to the project objectives. Validate the prioritization of all requirements with the sponsor and share the results with the stakeholders. Review the project governance to validate the policies, procedures, and guidelines used to prioritize the project. Ask the stakeholders to refine these requirements at a level of detail that becomes more stable and measurable. All right. Now, few key stakeholders are not really confident with how the team will develop the features because the requirements associated with these features are unstable and highly strategic for adding value to the product and the customer. Now, what should the project manager do? Answer B, which is validate the prioritization of all requirements with the sponsor and share the results with the stakeholders. Nope. We don't validate the prioritization with the sponsor. Review the project governance to validate the policies, procedures, and guidelines used to prioritize the project. Not. Definitely not. We don't need to review the governance to review those. Ask the stakeholders to refine these requirements at a level of detail that becomes more stable and measurable. They don't refine actually stakeholders. Suggest an agile approach to define these requirements and prioritize them according to the project objectives. Absolutely yes. And therefore, a PO will work on refining these requirements and prioritizing them according to the project objectives. Okay. Yeah. So this is, let me fix this. So this is actually the right answer, which is answer A. Okay. Now, by suggesting an agile approach, that means we will have a PO that will guarantee and ensure that refining these requirements will happen and also prioritizing them according to the project objectives. The sponsor doesn't do that, the stakeholders don't do that, and we don't need to. So B and D out and C reviewing the project governance, that's definitely not. Guys, I go back to this question. I really need to make sure that you understand something important. Suggesting an agile approach means having a product owner in place. Now, the answer does not need to say, Make sure the product owner refines these requirements and prioritizes them according to the project objectives. Now, yes, if answer A was written in this way, maybe you would think, okay, obviously that's the right one because answer B, prioritizing with the sponsor, definitely not. Answer D, asking the stakeholders to refine, definitely not. And answer C is out of the topic, okay? But, I told you, PMI has got different and advanced ways of shaping and formulating the questions, okay? So that's why instead of saying have a product owner refining these requirements, it says suggest an agile approach. Okay, for example, and not just about the PO, even for suggesting the agile approach, it's also about like applying, an iterative approach, for example, to slowly, define what needs to be done and refine the product. But that's one of the answers. That's one of the meanings of it. This answer. A project manager is managing an agile project for the first time. Early on, the project manager discovers that the team is struggling with agreeing on the scope of a feature during a sprint. How should the project manager help the team resolve the issue? Direct the most senior member actually, the most senior member, not the senior most member, the most senior member determine the scope on behalf of the team. Discuss this with the team and decide what the scope of the feature should be. Ask the team to log this story in the product backlog. I don't think so, but we will see. Anyway, we will see. On the next feature, encourage the team to collaborate to resolve their understanding of the feature. Now, the problem here is the team is struggling to agree on the scope of the feature during a sprint. We need to resolve this. Definitely, we need to encourage the team to collaborate to resolve their understanding of the feature. Asking the team to log in the product backlog, that's the task of the PO. They don't touch the product backlog. Discuss this with the team and decide the scope of the feature, decide what the scope of the feature should be. Yes, okay, you might say, yeah, but answer B is good, to discuss with the team and decide what the scope of the feature should be. But decide here refers to the project manager. Okay, and the project manager does not decide uh, in agile in such situations. It's the team who should decide. So here you need to act as a facilitator, like in answer D. Direct the most senior. Actually, let me fix this one. Um, the most senior. It can be right. Senior most. Actually, I don't like the way it's written. Most senior member. Yeah. So the most senior member does not decide by himself or herself, okay, on behalf of the team. Now, the team should be involved in decision making in regards to the scope of the sprint. Remember, here we're talking about the scope of the sprint, okay? A new team member is assigned to a team that consistently delivers each iteration. The new team member does not understand many of the processes followed and begins to negatively impact the schedule. What should the project manager do? Place the new team member on a performance improvement program. Ask another team member, no. Assign easier activities, no. Allocate time within the iteration to mentor the new team member, absolutely, yes, absolutely, obviously. Okay. So there are answers, we can immediately, reject, as we said before, and rejecting them immediately, that will help us save time, really. Okay, that's quite important. A multinational company is launching a company-wide digital transformation project that covers all of its regions and business lines. The project is expected to go through 5 phases and finish in 2 years. The project manager schedules a kickoff meeting. What should the project manager do next? Ensure there is enough budget to mandate all team members to fly to no. Consider using I'll get back to this. I'll tell you why. Consider using digital or virtual tools to conduct the kickoff meeting to minimize geographic boundaries. Okay. Document the kickoff meeting and close out the planning phase after the meeting is held. Limit to one kickoff meeting in the project's first phase in order to control the budget? Absolutely not. The right answer is definitely B. Now, let me tell you why A, I didn't even finish reading it. Flying all team members, that costs money. No. Limiting to one kickoff meeting? No. Document the kickoff meeting and close out the planning phase? No, doesn't no. Here, we have a company-wide project, covers all of its regions. Okay, 5 phases in 2 years. What we need to do is consider digital and virtual tools. We're talking about communication here to conduct the kickoff meeting and minimize geographic boundaries. So it's about the kickoff meeting, how to do it virtually, digitally, online. A project manager is assigned to a year-long project. Before the start of the design phase, a competitor announces that they will release a similar deliverable in 8 months, although with fewer features and functionality. I like this question, by the way. I like it. Which two actions should the project manager take? Modify the project management plan with an incremental approach, evaluate the impact of incremental deliverables, reduce the scope items of the final deliverable, of course not, discuss and review this external risk with the project sponsor, no, update the project artifacts to include this issue. The right answers here actually yes. Discuss with the sponsor, yes, sorry, and evaluate the impact of incremental deliverables. Yes. Sorry. When I said no to D, actually I meant to say yes, but it went out as no. No, yes, definitely. Now, a new competitor might release something earlier than us. Then definitely we need to discuss this risk with the sponsor and get their input on this. No, that's not escalation. That's discuss. Okay. All right. No, that's not escalation because that's a situation that will impact the entire project. Okay. Then definitely we need to have the input of the sponsor and then evaluate the impact of incremental deliverables. Like how can we have incremental deliverables? Okay. And how can they be effective? Modify the project management plan with an incremental approach. Yeah, it's good, but first we need to make sure that we do it right. So that's why answer B. Okay. We don't reduce the scope, and answer E is out of the topic. A project is halfway through its execution phase. The quality specifications for the project deliverables are formally accepted. However, a key stakeholder is dissatisfied, stating that deliverables do not meet the quality specifications. What should the project manager do in this situation? Notify the stakeholder that arbitration procedures will be followed, inform the project sponsor of the stakeholder's dissatisfaction. It does not provide any value, to be honest. Answer B. Okay, to be honest. Document the issue in the issue log and send a report to the management. The same with answer C. Review the requirements traceability matrix and conduct inspections. And definitely that's the right answer. Because here we have met the quality specifications for the deliverables. Even though a key stakeholder is dissatisfied. So we need to make sure that we make a gap analysis between the requirements traceability matrix, which includes the deliverables and their acceptance criteria, and compare it to what has been delivered, and then make the necessary inspections or comparison or analysis, etc. Okay, notifying the stakeholder that arbitration will be followed, definitely not, because we don't go to the second step in claims administration unless we move on with the first step, which is investigating on our own and figuring out what to do. B and C are definitely not, as we have mentioned them, as we have said. During a meeting with the customer, it was determined that participants of the meeting had different draft versions of an important design document. What should the project manager do first to ensure that this does not happen again? revisit the communication process control, ensure only the approved version is shared, investigate how draft versions were shared, not really, ensure only the latest first version is shared. Definitely the right answer is to revisit the communication process control, make sure we actually have distributed the latest version of the design document. Okay. Since the draft versions, I mean, we need to control the communications in here. Okay. Only approved version is shared now because actually the purpose of this. No, I actually, yeah, I mean, how will you ensure this? Through the communication process control. Okay. Uh, okay. So that's the right answer. These two questions, this one and the next one, they're quite easy. A retail company identifies that it is losing sales because customers are not promptly informed about promotions and sales points. The company needs to react quickly. A project charter is created along with the request to develop a mobile application for the customer. The marketing department has a long list of features to add to the application, but there are no specifications. Considering the objective to deploy customer value, which project lifecycle approach should be chosen? Now, since we're talking about customer value, definitely we need to go with something not predictive. Definitely not predictive. Now, here we need to react quickly. Um, yeah, we have a long list of features, no specifications, deploy customer value. Then here we need something really fast, fast approach that is about speed, constant feedback, and delivering results. And that should be the full agile. Okay, as we saw in our training, we're talking here about the full agile, not just the incremental by itself, because we cannot pick incremental because no, there are no specifications for this long list of features. And iterative actually is not about deploying customer value quickly. Okay, yes, now we will pick the agile, the full agile. An organization is about to start a multi-phased project due to due to strict regulations. Some of the phases must be completely planned in advance. However, other phases allow for more flexibility and experimentation on scope and schedule. The sponsor wants to pursue the project objectives as planned, but also wants to accommodate new information and changes as the project progresses. Which project management approach should the project manager select for this project? Hybrid, incremental, agile, or phased? I think it's pretty easy here because for some phases we need to have full plan in advance. For others, we need more flexibility and experimentation. So we need to be more hybrid here. Okay, we have, I think, five more questions. I think five or less. We will see. Due to a statewide emergency, a project team for a global insurance company is being forced to complete a project virtually. The project manager is tasked with conducting meetings where confidential patient information will be presented. What tool should the project manager use to conduct meetings with the project team and clients? Use a third-party instant messaging tool. Use a password-enabled audio video product. Use a popular social media platform. Definitely not. Use a collaborative electronic whiteboard. Now, for a global insurance company, we need to have a virtual project, or yeah, have a project virtually done. Okay, and we need to do conduct meetings with confidential patient information. Uh, sorry, we will have meetings where confidential information will be shared. Since we're talking about confidential, okay, will be shared, then definitely using a third-party instant messaging tool, not a popular social media platform, and not a collaborative electronic whiteboard, but we need to have a password-enabled audio video product. Okay. An agile project has a broad set of product features intended for different user profiles and usage. It is difficult to define common acceptance criteria that can apply to all the features. How can the project manager ensure that the appropriate acceptance criteria are applied to the features? Define the acceptance criteria and specific functional test cases only after analyzing the user feedback from testing the early feature release. Integrate the acceptance criteria review to a definition of ready for each feature and associated tests into the feature's definition of done. Use the broadest set of acceptance criteria to ensure that all features have a common quality baseline and associate functional test cases. Integrate the specific tests into the definition of ready for each feature and the acceptance criteria into the feature's definition of done. Guys, why I like this question? Because you because 90% of you present with me in this session could not understand it. 90% of you could not understand it. Why? Because after already 57 questions, you're tired. That's right. Imagine you being tired after 57 questions. So what do you think about the exam where there are 180 questions? Second, all the answers seem to be the same. Yeah, exactly. I know. Actually, I have left this question on purpose for you because I knew that once you will reach this level in this session, you will be already tired. Maybe my voice is exhausting. Maybe the questions are exhausting. Maybe, yeah, I mean, but you need to live in conditions similar to the ones in the exam. So, um, here, actually, when I was thinking before the session, how actually am I going to give you the last tips before the exam? And I told myself, you know what? Let me integrate all my advices into the questions. So actually, all what I wanted to tell you guys, I have told you within these questions. Each time there is a final tip, some recommendations. I just said it to you. I will just have a few more recommendations after we finish the last question, number 180. So here, actually, you've read this question. 90% of you have read this question and have not really understood it. Okay. So, because you're tired, I know, and it's kind of long and kind of exhausting question, and that's right, okay? But we need to practice all of them, and we need to be ready. So that's why I wanted to have this question. So here we have an agile project with a lot of features, okay, for different users. We did not, or we could not define a common acceptance criteria. So how can we ensure that the appropriate acceptance criteria is applied to the features? Okay. Now the right answer is integrate the acceptance criteria review into the definition of ready for each feature and associated tests into the features definition of done. Okay. Now let's take the answers one by one. Define the acceptance criteria and specific functional test cases only after analyzing the user feedback. No. Use the broadest set of acceptance criteria to ensure that all features have a common quality baseline and associated functional test cases. Definitely not. We need to have specific acceptance criteria actually for each requirement and each feature. Integrate the specific tests into the definition of ready for each feature and the acceptance criteria into the features definition of done. I think there is a mistake with the answer here. Integrate the acceptance criteria review into the definition of ready for each feature and associated tests into the feature associated tests. Uh, yeah. All right. So now, why answer B is the right one? Because when we are in the planning meeting of the iteration, and while you know defining which requirements will go into the iteration with the iteration, we need to make sure that part of the definition of ready is mentioned that acceptance criteria is defined. Now, let me show you. Let me show you, okay? Let me show you from our course. So I'm leaving the question here. Let me go to our course, okay? So let's go to our course and a second, guys. Yeah, let me use this, the English version. It's wrong. Okay, give me a second, guys. Yeah, and I will go here. Look, I'll explain to you this from our course. Actually, that's the best way how to explain to you this. Is it here? No, it's here. Yes, here it is. Look at this slide here. So this is from our PMP training course, okay? Slide 349. Now, look, this is definition of ready during the planning meeting of the iteration. Now, in the definition of ready, we have put a checklist. Definitely, definition ready is like a definition of done are about checklist. Now, the definition of ready has got one part which says the requirements acceptance criteria must be defined. Now, for any requirement to be included in this iteration, we must make sure that we know the acceptance criteria in advance in order to consider this requirement as ready to be part of this iteration. If this requirement does not have an acceptance criteria, then it is not ready to be part of this iteration. Now, we leave this slide from our training presentation and we go back to this question. And this is what the question says. Integrate the acceptance criteria review into the definition of ready, like to review to make sure there is an acceptance criteria for the requirement and associated tests into the features definition of done. We go back to our course and look here. This is the definition of done from our course. Look what it says. Definition of done during the review meeting. Look. Quality assurance tests. This is a test. Um, Unit acceptance test. This is another test. So you see, we have included the different types of tests as part of the definition of done. So this is from our course. That's why when we go back to this question in here, okay, that's what it says. Make sure that we have reviewed the acceptance criteria during the definition of ready for each feature and associated tests into the features definition of done. Okay, that's why the answer is B and not D, because D says the opposite, the other way around, and that's not correct. Okay, and that you see, it's from our course. All right, even though this question here is very, very similar to a question from the real PMP exam, still, if you go back to our training presentation, you will find all answers you can ever want, all info, all content, everything is mentioned in our training presentation, guys. Really, everything is mentioned in our training course. Just go back to it, read it word by word. Sometimes, let me show you, for example, let me show you something we saw earlier, okay? Really, let me show you something really important. I go back to our training presentation. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry, guys. Okay. I will go back to our training presentation and I will show you something. And it should be right. It should be with the, yeah, product vision board. Oh, not in here. Let me show it to you. No, this is the sprint. So way before that. Okay. Give me some time, guys. I need to find it. Yeah. Here it is. Look at this slide, number 318 in our training course. Look at the sentence down here. Maybe some of the people did not notice it really, but it says cost in Scrum, because now this slides are about Scrum. Cost in Scrum can be either predetermined through a fixed budget, are calculated based on the backlog. Now, if you go back to that question we saw earlier, when we said, let's prioritize the work, create a prototype, finish it, then move on to the next priority items, work on them until running out of budget. Now, that's what's written in here. Okay, like if in case we have a predetermined fixed budget, like what the first half of the question says, and then at the end of this chapter, if we go to the tips and tricks of this chapter, and you know it, guys, you know it. And in the tips and tricks of this chapter, what did we say? Um, wait, transition. No, not in here. Use progressive. Wait, I need to find it. No, I think the next one. Wait. Yeah, the work ends if the budget ends, or when the budget ends. Not if, but when the budget ends. So you see, sometimes really small sentences in our training presentation can help you. Really small sentences, maybe one word, will help you answer all the questions. Believe me, guys, all of these questions can be answered based on our training content. Really, like remember that question from earlier, this question, etc. Okay, all right. After signing an agreement with a vendor, the project manager notices that the vendor is continuously asking for changes on the procurement statement of work, SOW. These changes would improve the project outcome. What should the project manager do next? Conduct an audit on the procurement process and inform the vendor about the audit's observations. Assess the situation as an opportunity for improvement to perform a risk analysis. Uh, Consult the list of selected vendors for the bid and evaluate a possible change of the vendor. No. Revise the procurement control process to avoid undesired changes that might affect the schedule. The right answer is definitely B. Now, we have signed an agreement with the vendor. We noticed that the vendor is continuously asking for changes on the SOW, which would improve the project outcome. This looks like or sounds like an opportunity for improvement. So definitely we need to assess the situation as an opportunity for improvement and perform a risk analysis. Now, you might say, oh, risk analysis, that's something negative. No, we said that risk can be positive or can be negative. Okay, if it's negative, if it's positive, it's an opportunity. So here we're talking about an opportunity. Conducting an audit on the procurement process. There is no problem with the audit process here. I mean, yeah, you might be saying, but there are constant changes to the SOW. But here, these would bring improvement to the project outcome. So it's an opportunity. So let's take it. Okay. Revise the procurement control process to avoid undesired changes. No, actually not. Last two questions. A key import supply has suffered a delay of 6 months. The delay affects a functionality that is needed to complete the project on time. The project manager learns from the project team that another team is working on a product that could work as a solution, but it is still a prototype. What should the project manager do to accelerate this solution? Contact the other team and ask them to organize a demo of the prototype. Perform iterative planning with the team to use the prototype. Check the burn-up charts to see what progress has been made to integrate the solution. Prioritize the backlog with the customer to remove the feature. I mean, answers C and D are totally out, to be honest, because now we have a delay with a component, but we heard that another team has got something that is kind of a substitute solution. So what we need to do is simply talk to the other team and ask them to organize a meeting of the prototype, a demo of the prototype. If we like it and we're convinced, then we can simply, select it instead of this delayed supply. As simple as that. Okay. So answer is A. Perform iterative planning with the team to use the prototype. No, let's first have a demo. Let's understand its capabilities and what it does and etc. But C and D are totally out. The last question for this session, a project manager holds periodic progress review meetings to discuss issues. What should the project manager do first on the agenda? Produce lessons learned documentation, elaborate the risk mitigation strategy and risk register, formulate project management plan integration, or update resolution approaches and action assignments. Now, um, uh, periodic progress review meetings to discuss issues. First thing on the agenda is definitely update resolution approaches and action assignments in order to put them in the lessons learned documentation. So here, first thing to do is this. Produce lessons learned that comes later. Risk mitigation strategy and risk register, not part of it, to be honest. Yeah, because that's for risk management. Formulate project management plan integration, definitely not. All right, so these are our 60 questions for this session. And actually, I have utilized these 60 questions to integrate a lot of tips for you within. Okay. So let me put this in a separate video.